And joining me now to talk more about this is Douglas Smith. He is the Executive Vice President of MWW Public Affairs and a former Assistant Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security. I'm going to talk about these recent crashes that we've had. I was reading 462 people have died in 3 different crashes on 3 different continents. We had the MH17 disaster, TransAsia, Air Algérie. This comes on the heels of MH370. A lot of people are jittery out there. Is it still safe to fly?
By far, it's still the safest way to travel. If you look at the statistics compared to getting in a car, taking a train, riding a bus, despite these high-profile disasters recently, global aviation is as safe as it has ever been in its almost 100 years of active flight.
Looking back at the MH17 disaster, could eavesdropping computers or GPS technology something have prevented this?
I think the biggest thing in your earlier segment talked about that is the communication between Russia, Ukraine, the World Civil Aviation Organization. This was just a horrific disaster. It never needed to happen. If President Putin had done a better job of controlling the rebels in Ukraine, it probably would not have happened. I think the investigation will continue. As you've seen, there's active fighting in the spot, so they haven't been able to recover all the data. But it will be chalked up, I think, to ultimately just a disaster of gigantic proportion as a result of the Russians not controlling the Ukrainian rebels.
Okay, well, will the World Aviation officials be meeting on Tuesday to talk more about this, to see if we could be more vigilant in the way we fly? How do you think this will turn out?
I think it will be a slow path, but the bottom line is all the global leaders in aviation want flying to be as safe as possible. And if it requires them to spend a little bit more money to fly a little bit further to keep their passengers safe, they will. The people at that meeting, Tony Tyler, the head of IATA, Raymond Benjamin, the head of ICAO, Angela Giddens from the World Aviation Council, all seasoned experts in the space. This is coming on the heels, though, of what they tried to handle following the Malaysia Flight 370. And when you bring all these different carriers together, you never quite know what's going to happen, but clearly they need to do something.
Does it really come down for money and time for the carriers, come down to that? I mean, we hate to think that, but is that what it's about?
In this particular case, no. I mean, there are only certain routes they fly, but there's not a CEO out there that's going to put a plane, and these are not only $150 million aircraft, they're filled with people, with their employees. They will move to different air corridors if necessary, but they need to know what those corridors are. And in this particular case, it seems more and more clear that that was not communicated.
We've seen the images, and they've just been heart-wrenching of the disasters that have happened. But when you look at the stats of the number of flights that take off and land every single day, the odds are fairly good.
Incredibly good. I mean, aviation has never been this safe. It's tragic what's happened these last few crashes, but if you look over the last 100 years, we are right now in a renaissance of aviation safety.
All righty. Douglas Smith, Executive Vice President of MWW.